How did we get here? What in the Alice in Wonderland nightmares is going on right now?
All I can say is how fucking dare you?
If you voted for that man, if you voted for anybody other than Kamala and you live in one of the states that it was, you know, close, or if you didn't vote, fuck you.
Senate race. It's not gonna happen. Republican Kevin
Go Kamala.
will be returning to the Senate.
I chose family, I chose women, I chose America. I love you.
How the fuck is this still happening? All I've ever known politically is hatred.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you and your mother and your sister. I'm just done with all of this.
I'm sorry to all my friends who are Trump supporters. But y'all don't understand how scared of this man I am.
If this guy does end up winning again, all of the people who voted for him will be like happy and they'll just be celebrating. And everyone else, everyone who feels threatened by him is fucking scared. Like we're scared for our lives, we're scared for our friends.
How dare you put this man into office for another 4 years, knowing damn well what it means for our country, what it means for us as a people.
To know that there is that much ignorance and that much hate in this country, it's so terrifying. It's so terrifying.
How the fuck are we back in this same situation again? Who the fuck is voting for him? Genuinely.
Fuck you. I don't want to hear about how shitty your life gets under his policies. Live with that decision. Sit with it. Let it make you uncomfortable. Fuck you. If you voted for anybody other than Kamala and you
People who voted for him will be like happy and they'll just be celebrating.
Put this man into office for
Everyone who feels
another
threatened
4
by
years,
him
knowing
is
damn well
scared.
what it means for our country,
We're scared for our lives, we're scared
as
for
a
our
people.
friends.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I feel the washing nibble tears. As dreams dissolve and hope just clears. The unwashed masses pause and learn. Their hearts ablaze begin to burn. They cast their votes in hopeful lines, but now they face these troubled times. Kamala's name they spoke with pride. Now they face a changing tide. Cries of loss and shouts of rage, turning over a new page. In the field where dreams lay bare, hoping for a breath of air. To her as beacon bright, to guide them through the darkest night. But now with tears they walk the path, seeking solace in their wrath. The great unwashed, they'll find their way. In the end they'll seize the day. United by their common fight, they'll emerge into the light. Cries of loss and shouts of rage, turning over a new page. In the field where dreams lay bare, hoping for a breath of air.
Boom! Hello, Anonymous.
Good evening. It is actually me.
It is Ed indeed.
Although I'm not wearing this bloody mask the whole time, but I was given it in the pub yesterday by a dear friend, and I thought I'd wear it. So, Kat,
does look.
If you're watching, this is your mask.
It looks cool. It looks cool. You look
I don't know
evil
how
as
people
well.
Protest. Yeah, well, that's the whole thing about V, the character, is that there is a mixture of good and bad. I don't know how people protest in these bloody things that it's steaming up.
I don't know how someone wears a hat all day, or well, hat's a pain in the arse. But I don't know how someone can wear a wig all day. I don't know how they do it.
I can't see bugger all. Oh dear.
Oh, so the Twitter has been alight for the last couple of days with the tears of liberals. In fact, you have to wear wellies if you go into Twitter these days.
I was having even more fun yesterday than I had during Sausage Fest.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, just the level of Trump derangement syndrome is just off the charts. I mean, some people genuinely think he's the Antichrist, and it's just okay. He's no angel.
I don't get it, Ed. I don't get it.
I mean, if he's,
I could understand. Right, sorry. I could understand if this was completely new, right? But we had him for 4 years, 4 years ago, and nothing happened.
Exactly. It's like, what do you think he's going to do in the next 4 years that he didn't do in the last 4 years? And let it not just, because I wouldn't call myself a Trumper. I'm not a fan. It's American politics. I've always thought Trump abrasive, narcissistic, and really rather irritating, but that's just me. And I mean, ultimately, I have no say in the election, and the American people are free to choose whoever they want to. And they thumping majority. I mean, the only states that seem to have voted blue are the ones that don't require voter ID, which is interesting. And the Democrats also seem to have lost like 20 million voters, just kind of disappeared. I don't know if they went back into the grave or something.
Yeah. I touched on that last night. You troll room, you didn't tell me my audio was a bit flaky last night. Right. How is the audio, by the way, troll room? Speak to us. And we have quite a few in tonight. Nick Toridas, Beats and Tapes, Cowboy Bob, and the guys of Amy. Who else we got? Ray, my old chum from Twitter. He's been winding me up. I think it's been going both ways. Shalini, who keeps dropping random messages and confusing me. Not gonna trip again. That's you. We've seen not gonna trip again before, I think. Paul Armstrong. Thank you, Paul.
Up.
Paul says good audio. Cowboy Bob says 5x5. And Dreadeye and Julie says sounds fine here. Did last night too. Well, that's strange. Guess who's back? Vaughn's back. Hey, we've got the full house, the unmitigated mind.
You were fretting that there wasn't anyone waiting.
Yeah, they've all piled in, haven't they?
We have a very active troll room today.
Yeah, we do. We have loads of people
Maybe
on.
they're just getting better at timing.
Yeah, well, I think that's that. I think they wait for the notifications now. That's why I like to play the little preamble. I made that video with took ages to do that.
I thought it was good, apart from making me listening to those whining maggots all over again.
Yeah, I know, but you have to layer them all in, and bloody hell, what a nightmare.
I mean, but who even does that? It's just attention seeking. They're not trying to express themselves. They're not making a valid point to the body politic about their views about the election. They're just narcissistic, attention seeking little whiny bitches.
But what makes it even worse is the fact that they come in, set up the camera, take 3 steps back, and then they don't cut the front end off. Why don't they cut the front end off and just go straight into the screaming? It's so obvious, a virtue thing. In fact, it's just a meme for TikTok, isn't it? CPR cars. That's
trying to see
one.
who can be the most upset about the orange man winning another 4 years. I mean, it's. I've already seen him starting to cozy up to neocons.
Oh yeah.
And if he has neocons in his administration, then the world is just as screwed as it would have been under Harris. Although, I mean, Trump, at least he can string sentences together and doesn't sound like a complete retard or a geriatric old idiot.
Yeah, just as well we're not monetized. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know. They just it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in power really, because it's just as you say, the same side of a. It's a different cheek of the same arse, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
And I mean, it's not like he's whoever comes in is gonna have to deal with some. I mean, they don't have an easy time of it when he gets in. I mean, he's gonna have to hit the ground running and deal with the Middle East, and that's 2 months away. People are like, "Oh, Trump." It's like he's not even in the White House yet.
Yeah,
they've still got another two months to try and assassinate him again. And then I heard a story yesterday that the 5 CEOs of Big Pharma were all having a panic telephone conversation. I reckon they were getting together to club in to buy a hitman to take out another Kennedy.
Well, some of the one of the chief officers, I think it was of Pfizer, has quit. Not the CEO, but one of the one of the chief officers, but not Burla.
Oh, Bancel from Moderna, he's resigned, or he's stepping down, or whatever.
Yeah, that was it.
And Moderna's share price has tumbled. But I don't know, because ultimately we all know there's a deep state. We all know that there are shadowy figures that control things from behind the scenes. We know that the US president doesn't have nearly as much power as everyone likes to think. And on top of that, we've got our own bunch of authoritarian, neo-fascist, quasi-totalitarian scumbags to worry about.
I suppose we need to break it to them that you won't be here tomorrow night.
Unfortunately not, no.
Oh, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing tomorrow night just now. But so we can have a little talk about all-in type stuff as well. Did you see Starmer turning up late? And everybody's going to get snubbed. No, he didn't get snubbed. He turned up late. That's why what's his name wasn't there to shake his hands, because he shook everybody else's hands. And then Starmer turns up at the cow's tail, and everybody was already inside. You see him standing there because he got out of the car and he's looking around, going, "Where the fuck is everyone? Where is everyone?"
You can't show up. You can't show up late and expect everyone to wait for you when there's loads of other world leaders there, just because you're the imperial prime minister. In your own mind.
Yeah, I know. Not going to trip again. So the heads of all the religions here in the States are getting together to determine if the rapture happened. Otherwise, how do you explain the missing 21 million votes?
Oh dear. Yeah, well, they must have come from somewhere. There was some bloody hilarious memes and jokes going around yesterday. Talking about how there was one really funny one about someone basically going to complain to their parents about voting Democrat, and they're in the cemetery.
Yeah,
but it's pretty bloody obvious.
I mean, there were. I mean, that was a fact, wasn't it? There were dead people voted last time. And there was a lot of cleanup done this time before everything started, because I remember seeing states that had, stripped out a huge percentage of their voters because they either didn't live there anymore, or they died, or they were ineligible to vote.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think ordinary people seemed like they were much more. They were checking what was going on and making sure the machines were recording the vote correctly. And I also think, I mean, certainly for Trump and the Amish, it was looking at numbers, the ones that really tipped were Hispanic males and the Amish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And particularly in Pennsylvania, the Amish came out en masse. I think it was in Pennsylvania in the last election, something like 3,000 of them voted. And in this election, something like 80,000 of them voted.
Yeah. Because remember, the last time people were encouraged not to go to the voting because they wanted you to mail everything in because of the pandemic. So it was a double-edged sword the last time, because Republicans don't do that. Republicans go and vote in person. You know? And really, I think even in this country, there should be special circumstances that have to be fulfilled.
I think so too. I mean, I have a postal vote, but
I know.
I mean, I have a postal vote because it's just easy. But I'm thinking of cancelling it and going back to normal voting. But I think the system, you should have ID. If you need ID to buy a drink at 18, you need ID to fucking vote. I mean, simple.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair.
But it's also the part of the issue is that we basically deliberately just have administrators. If you look around Europe, there's no interesting, exciting, charismatic politicians. Okay, maybe Hungary, maybe Slovakia a bit. But if you look at Germany, you look at the Netherlands, you look at Belgium, France, the UK, we have these apparatchik, administrative, functionary type people who basically just marching in lockstep to orders being given from, I don't know, Bilderberg, Davos, UN, whoever the hell is, writing their Build Back Better speeches.
I don't even think that they need to be given orders because basically all they're doing is following the crowd. They go to these
each other.
They go to these Davos things and sit down and chat, and they go, oh well, that seems like a good idea. Oh well, I'll do that then, and then they go back and basically they all do the same thing without it being. I don't think it has to be a conspiracy. I think they're all in lockstep. They're on lockstep because they're all
a conspiracy. But
it's not really, is it?
Surely that's but. You can't deny when we have all of these secret meetings, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, Davos, all of these, by definition, those are all conspiracies. I mean, by definition, the Bilderberg meetings are a conspiracy because you've got all these rich assholes conspiring together to determine what's going to happen in the world.
Yeah, but well, I suppose they are. That's what people in positions of influence do, though, isn't it?
Sure, but it's still.
So what do you think, though?
Label.
But speaking about conspiracies, then, what do you think? Then, do you think that because they've said Elon's going to blow the lid on the Epstein client list, and
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it as well, because they did this the last time that everybody was all full of talk and nothing ever happened. Remember, but Elon's got access to a lot of information now. Through Twitter.
Sure, but but Elon is also, he is a technocrat. I mean, every single one of his businesses relates to some parts of the technocratic agenda. And so fundamentally, whilst I'm appreciative that he gave me my Twitter account back, I don't trust him for a minute.
Yeah, he didn't give me mine back.
No, I don't know. Maybe you were too over the top.
I made
or you didn't.
I can't. I captioned. You know how people. That's why I never do these caption competitions anymore. Somebody put a picture of Jacinda and Sturgeon up at COP26 talking to each other, and they said caption this, and I just said something like. Nippy had said something like, you deserve for that. And that's what I said. And I lost my account for that, for promoting violence, hate speech.
Yeah.
I mean, well, every time I appeal, they call it something different. It's either hate speech or promoting violence or, targeted harassment.
Well,
how can you target
picture?
How can you target harassment on a politician? That's just ridiculous. Politicians are there to be harassed. That's why they get paid so much. So they just took you for your profile picture.
Yeah, because it had it was the same one that I've got at the moment, but I put a flandel on the blade, and there's blood dripping down it. And yeah, they got me for violent imagery.
That's just ridiculous.
But it was back in the day where they were basically just mass reporting people for the tiniest little infringement of the rules, and all of the little woke idiots at Twitter were just more than happy to go along with it.
Yeah,
and
yeah, they were.
I mean, I do think that Musk has, to some extent, I mean, the fact that he opened Twitter up and brought a whole bunch of banned accounts back, and we do have more freedom, and we still get shadow banned and stuff.
Yeah,
but we do have more of an ability to get our voices heard on there.
I think you're right. I think there are still some woke idiots working Twitter though. They're obviously they're obviously still there, but yeah, you're right. You get away with a lot more than you used to. If you go back, I mean, I don't know when you joined Twitter, but I remember it back in like 2009, and it was like, it literally was the Wild West. It was glorious.
To be honest, until the COVID, I didn't. To be honest, I never saw the point of Twitter. I mean, I've had a Twitter account since about 2009 or something, and I was never used it really.
Yeah, I used it quite a lot, and then I kind of fell away from it, and then I came back to it round about 2019.
Yeah, and I mean, I never really understood it. I mean, now I'm a complete Twitter junkie. I probably need freaking professional help with it. But
yeah, me too.
I mean, it does grow on you though, particularly. I mean, I think it saved a lot of people's lives during COVID, particularly when we were at the height of the restrictions and people were losing friends and family and relationships, and it really left some people completely isolated, and they find Twitter, and they find this little community of people who are all in the same boat. And okay, you're all scattered all around the world, but it kept a lot of people going, me included.
Yeah, that.
And so to have that, for Musk to give that back to us, that's something significant.
Yeah.
But at the same time, still don't trust him.
Oh no, why would you? I was watching some YouTube. In fact, I was sitting. I'll be honest. I was sitting on the couch napping, waiting for the show to start, and I had YouTube on, and it was the latest launch of the dragon thing. You know, they're way up to rescue that woman or whatever. And they were walking out with their spacesuits on, and it's like, they're not spacesuits. They look like sailing jackets or something. They do not look like spacesuits at all. They're not even, the jacket sits over the trousers. How's that going to work in space?
I don't know. Maybe spacesuits have improved. Maybe they're not going to space. Maybe they're just going to a swimming pool.
They just look so
supposedly
fake.
She's been stranded. I mean, she must actually be stranded on the International Space Station. Was she just stranded in a fucking pool somewhere, and it's all just a media thing?
But the question is, why haven't they brought her back earlier?
Well, because of the Boeing.
Yeah, no, I know the Boeing thing, but
malfunctioned.
Yeah, but you know, let's be honest, right? If they really needed to get her back earlier, they could have, because they could have sent this rocket up quicker than they have, no doubt, or they could have asked the Russians to do it, because the Russians will have a rocket sitting there ready to go.
Well, the Russians brought. I mean, the Russians brought some American astronauts back from the ISS
recently.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. So they could probably ask the Russians to do it again, and they would have done it. There's even a there's a cosmonaut on that launch that just happened. Yeah. So, and people are going, oh, Elon's a national security risk. He's talking to the Russians. Well, yeah, because so's your NASA, so's everybody. It's like they don't understand. They don't understand how the world works. I mean,
No.
even during World War II, people were still talking to Germany, and America was still supplying them with equipment and oil. Oil!
Absolutely. I mean, every single other period of conflict, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, the Gulf War, there's always contact between the sides. And that's one of the reasons that the times that we live in are so dangerous, because the West has completely given up on any kind of diplomacy, and it's all they think that they can just go and bully their way around the world. And the world is basically saying no. And now with Russia getting more powerful, the other it's going to embolden the other countries, because you've got places like Burkina Faso and Niger in Africa that are kicking out the French and they're inviting the Russians in. I think it's hilarious.
And the Americans. And they kicked the Americans out as well,
because the Russians have traditionally, to start with, they didn't have overseas colonies in the same way that Europeans did. And they've certainly never approached Africa from the perspective of colonial kind of taking over and telling them what to do. The Russians have been helping Africa for decades. They were one of the prime backers behind some of the anti-colonial movements in the 60s. It's the sort of thing that got Patrice Lumumba in the Congo killed. Was it Congo or Zaire? Or I think it was Zaire. And I mean, I'm not saying the Russians are angels, and I'm not saying
far from it.
That precisely, but at the same time, the people in Burkina Faso have a right to determine who they have alliances with, who they have helping them out, who mines their gold, what happens to that gold. I mean, if you look at Mali produces 850 tons of gold a year, and it has no gold reserves. Meanwhile, France has the 4th largest gold reserves in the world, and absolutely no gold mines in France.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaks volumes.
Well, yeah, of course it does. Right, let's see if we can G up some questions from the troll room before we end up getting down routes that we probably don't want to go down. Right, come on, troll room. Have you any rabbit hole related questions that you want to ask about or speak about? I certainly I've been doing. I showed you my schedule, didn't I? And that's only the tip of the iceberg, because you've seen the full big plan thing. So these are the videos that are currently in production, so to speak.
That's one of the reasons we didn't have a rabbit hole for tonight, is because neither of us have had time to put one together.
I know. No, right. Hold on, troll room. Let's talk about this. I said you can ask us anything rabbit hole related. Right. Okay. Let's talk about the headless Edinburgh man. Yeah. Well, why not? Because the official.
No, is that nearly headless Nick?
No. This guy is headless. Did you not see it?
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean the real one? I thought. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. So the official narrative is, from my understanding, the official narrative is he got caught up. He fell in front of a bus, and he got caught up by the wheel and swished round the wheel arch, which I think is alleged to have decapitated him. And then people who were out Halloweening, and they were, to be fair, Halloweening, because they were dressed up, and they'd obviously had a few beers, and they obviously thought this was a Halloween prank and gave it a kick, and one guy picks it up by the hair and then puts it down rather rapidly when he realises it's actually a real head. Then his mate comes up and teabags it. It was like something out of Call of Duty. So
I saw a video that John O'Looney put out saying, "No way was that a bus. No way was that. I mean, that decapitation caused by a bus."
John O'Looney and I have had our differences in the past, so I don't see John O'Looney because he blocked me and I blocked him.
Oh, well, the thing is that he's a funeral director, and he sees a lot of dead people. He sees a lot of accident victims,
Uh-huh.
and so he's got an opinion that I would say carries weight in the matter of how someone's head managed to get disconnected from someone's body.
If you'd actually let me finish, you might be surprised at what I'm going to say. But on this occasion, I think I'd have to agree with him because, as you know, I've seen an awful lot of road accident victims, and I've seen decapitations as well. And I've seen people that have been hit by buses and run over by HGVs. In fact, one chap who got run over by a bus in Paisley, it went over his head, and until he was ID'd, we just casually called him Pancake Head because his head was about 3 foot. 3 foot circle. He got about this thick. So it wasn't pleasant. But yeah. It's like the funeral directors
You have to
turn
laugh,
up
though.
and they're like, "Can we borrow a shovel to scrape this bit off?" Yeah, but so you've got to laugh because it's gallows humor, and when you're dealing with it and things like, I mean, I've seen a guy. It was a stolen car, and the guy's head had popped out. Well, no, his head hadn't popped out. What happened was he turned the car over, right? He hit the curb and a wall and flipped the car, and his head got caught between the car and the ground as the car is sliding down the road upside down, right? And basically the road surface just acted like a sander. And from about that if you imagine this part here has just been sanded away, and there's just this big flat bit. Where you could see into
face itch just thinking about it.
Yeah. So I mean, he didn't pull back from that one. And then there was the guys who'd stolen a car again going down the M8, and it was an automatic, and obviously they weren't terribly understanding of how automatics work, and they were doing something like 90 miles an hour. One guy was standing up on the front seat with his head out the sunroof when the driver put it into reverse. So he went forward and his head came off. So yeah, I've seen a few decapitations. They don't tend to be very clean though. That looked like I mean, when you saw it, it looked like a very clean cut. That's clean
like
cut.
Ned Stark levels of cleanliness.
Yeah. It was like a guillotine almost.
That to me was like someone had sliced it off. Yeah. Guillotine, sharp blade, like Saudi Arabian beheading type thing.
I wasn't going to go down any particular cultish route, but yeah. The wheel room wouldn't cut it, Ray. Wheel room wouldn't cut it because have you seen the size of the tire on a bus? It's about this wide. The wheel room's never going to get near you, right? What's going to happen is the tire's just going to spread your head, hence pancake head. So that wouldn't work. The only thing I could think of that may have accounted for it would be if it ran over his chest or whatever and the pressure popped it off. But I would have expected a much worse cut. I would expected it to have been really jagged, torn.
Any other way of that decapitation happening, that's not a clean, like sawn through. Even if you took a saw to it, it would all be jagged and messed up. Whereas if it's a clean slice through with a very sharp blade, any other thing, if it pops off or ripped off or anything like that, it's never going to come off cleanly.
Yeah, and so Ray said there wasn't much blood from the body. So there again, if he'd been crushed by the bus, you would have expected there to be quite a lot of blood all over the place.
I mean, any removal of head from a body is going to result in squirting arterial blood going everywhere.
But you're not going to see that because that's going to come out. It comes out 2 or 3 big. I mean, we've all seen that camel video and whatever. And it comes out 2 or 3 big blip, and then there's nothing left, right? Because you've cut all the major arteries that are going up to your brain. Remember, your brain's the most energy intensive part of your your body, so it gets a really good supply of blood. So you empty yourself pretty quickly in those circumstances. So yeah, I just find it weird, but I mean, you get odd things happen in road accidents that you wouldn't expect, but normally they're messy. Road accidents don't tend to be very clean.
Mm.
You know, I've not seen many clean road accidents. So yeah.
Now, to me, that whole road accident story just has the smell of a cover up about it. They're basically just trying to keep a lid on the fact that this country is descending into a violent dystopian hellhole.
Yeah, and the other thing that gets me is they shut the pubs and told people to get out.
They don't want people talking.
Yeah, well, see, if it was a road accident and you wanted to preserve the scene, you're preserving the road. Therefore, you're just sealing off that small part of the road. You don't need to shut all the shops and pubs around it, you know?
Well, that again suggests that there's something, because you don't normally see them.
Weird.
I mean, I've seen road accidents before, not up close, but certainly been impacted by them in terms of roads closed and things like that. But certainly, if it happens in a town, they don't close all the shops and make pubs shut and everything else.
No, they just seal off the road, and because they're examining the road, and they're trying to retain any evidence from what would have happened on the road. So to me, it doesn't sound. I'm with you on this one. It doesn't sound right, but I find having worked in Scotland and in the police service in Scotland for 30 years, right? That's not how the police works. You know, the covering up things like that.
Yeah, but times have changed.
Maybe times have changed, but remember, I mean, I was working closely with the police in senior positions until 2019, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So times have changed, you're right, and I think certainly there's a lot more sensitivity to what might kick off if people find certain things out, you know? But it's a weird one to try, and if there was a criminal act, I don't see how they could cover it up. That's the thing. So I don't know. And part of me says this isn't how you work. It's not how you do. I mean, I was a traffic cop for what, over 10 years, a traffic sergeant, you know, for over 10 years, and that's not how the traffic works. It's not how you go about investigating things. So,
but maybe there's policemen who were on the scene who've been told to keep their mouth shut or something, who are actually saying the same thing as that you are right now, that this is not.
Yeah, it's not how we would do it. Right?
Yeah, but they've been gagged, or
it's possible
they'll be fired if they open their mouths or whatever. This is the thing, that we're just kind of seeing pictures in the news and hearing what the official sources are saying about it.
I think what we have to do is we have to keep our eyes open and keep waiting on the result and see what happens. And I think Paul's right. I don't know. The thing that Paul in the chat asked if it could be an attempt to cover up something, and the biggest problem is if it's criminal, I don't see how you could, because it would come out eventually one way or the other. But, you know, it just doesn't, there's an uneasiness about it that doesn't sit well with me. So I don't like it it doesn't sound like a road accident.
Maybe it's ninjas. Maybe there's ninjas that did something. Maybe they mistook the person for someone else that was more important or something. I don't know. At this point, anything is. I
mean, yeah. I mean, a 74-year-old
katana. I mean,
a 74-year-old white guy. It's a weird one. Unless it's some kind of gang-related violence or something. But again,
well, maybe he's some gang boss or something.
Could have been. Yeah. Look at Arthur Thompson. He was a gang boss, and he wasn't young.
But then surely that would come out. I mean, because that sort of
Well,
thing that's
yeah,
shit like that's in the newspapers all the time.
yeah.
There'd be no reason to. And I mean, if it was some sort of, I don't know, intelligence agency operation or something, they would do it. There wouldn't be a beheading. It would be much more discreet. The person would have a heart attack or an accident, or they'd commit suicide or something like that. They wouldn't have a severed head found in the middle of a bloody street in Edinburgh.
Yeah. So Ray said they found the bodiless head first. Yeah, the body was in the road above. So the way the Cowgate works, I think there's a elevated section, and the
Does that mean that the head rolled down the hill?
no, I think somebody kicked it off.
God.
I think somebody thought it was a prank, and I think they kicked it off. But having said that, when I saw the head, it was in remarkably good condition for something that is supposed to have either been cut by a bus tire or some method or some kind of road accident, because it wasn't that badly beat up. And normally things are, I mean, I've seen the last one I was at where the guy been hit by an HGV. It looked like something out the Thing, you know? You couldn't recognise it as a human. Well, one side you could. The other side was just like, bleh. It was like, bleh. What is that? Oh, turn it over. Oh, it's that guy. You know? It's like, I mean, it's just, it's horrible. Horrible.
Maybe it's some kind of alien. Maybe it wasn't an actual person. Maybe it was some sort of cyborg Terminator type thing.
Oh, like an autonomous robot. And that would account for the lack of blood, maybe.
Maybe.
You know, something like, what's his name? What was his name out of it wasn't Blake, what was his name out of Alien, the robot?
Wait,
the android?
Alien?
Yeah. Was it Blake? No. It was a guy that was a robot in Alien. He came back in that last
John Hurt.
No,
John Hurt.
No, John Hurt was the guy that got the alien in him. The robot in Alien was, what was the guy? Ash. That was
Ash. Yeah, Bilbo Baggins. Same actor that played Bilbo Baggins.
Played Ash.
Yeah.
No, the guy that played Ash is dead.
He is now, but the guy who played Bilbo Baggins is dead too. But it was I can't remember what his name is, but it was
Ian Holm.
Ian Holm. Yeah, it was.
What did he play Bilbo Baggins on?
Now.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, I was thinking
the fucking Rings.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're right. You're right. For some reason when you said Bilbo Baggins, I was thinking Frodo.
Yeah,
but Bilbo, the Hobbit guy, yeah, the one from the Hobbit, the book.
He's very, very, very young-looking Ian Holm.
Yeah.
He's actually a superb actor. Bless him.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I mean, Bilbo Baggins was one of my favorite film characters, and he's just so well played and convincing.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we need to keep an eye on this one because it's a weird one. It is a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, it's like the Manchester thing. You know, those guys have been sentenced, and they were charged and sentenced, and let out. You know, on a suspended sentence, and nobody seems to have cracked a light on it.
Well, no, because something is afoot in this country.
Yeah. But you know what? It's like people have got to, you know, I'm shutting up. Carry on. I'm just getting to bother.
Yeah, but that's,
you know what I mean.
Well,
you know what I mean.
The thing is that's where we're at. Absolutely, that's where we're at. And apart from anything else, everyone's got to watch what we say, because we don't have any freedom of speech. We definitely don't have any freedom of speech on YouTube. But at the same time, we should still be able to speculate. But I mean, all I know is that we've got a new party that's just come into government and it's basically lied their way into power. saying they were going to do all sorts of things that they've just now turned around, done the opposite. Giving loads of handouts to their mates and the people that got them elected, i.e. unions and train drivers and all these people, and just continuing the globalist agenda. And if you notice with the Prime Minister, apart from the mealy-mouthed nonsense that he spouts, he's constantly talking about international partners this, or global efforts that, or whatever. And it's so bloody obvious. It's also uninspiring. I mean, if you look at all of the European countries, anytime you get a leader who inspires, I mean, even someone like Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, who I don't agree with about pretty much anything, but he's charismatic, he's got some personality. They find that even if they win, the system still finds a way to keep them out of power.
Yeah. Well, look at Germany, because it was all set up for a right-wing triumph, and they snatched it. Although I think things are falling apart. I think things are falling apart in Germany as we speak. And then there was, what's her name, that she keeps reminding me of Sue Hodge. You remember the girl that played the short waitress out of Hello, Hello?
Yeah.
Right. So Maloney, remember when Maloney took over in Italy? She talked a great game. She started off, and now she's like, full-blown narrative, She's like the Jacinda. She's like the Jacinda Ardern of Europe. What the hell happened?
Yeah, no, I don't know. And if you actually go back and you look at her on the campaign trail, she was like, "Families this and smash globalization that." And as soon as she got in, it was just like she went into Klaus Schwab's office and bent over the desk and pulled a skirt up.
Yeah. Just do me. Don't bother with lube. I'll take it. And it was just absolutely unbelievable. It's like two different people.
But it's the same with a lot of these politicians, because if you look at Starmer before the election, I mean, as soon as he put those creepy, dark, bloody control glasses on,
yes, I think they're wild in. They're wild in.
I'm just waiting. I mean, because we've had the most god almighty Zelensky curse now in the US and also in Germany. I'm just waiting for the Zelensky curse to hit Starmer.
Yeah. I wonder if Sean Penn's asked for his Oscar back yet.
I think Zelensky's probably melted it down.
I told him not to. Remember, that's what I said. Do you remember that? No.
Melted it.
Do you remember that?
Probably.
I think I made like a meme thing, and it was like Sean Penn giving him the Oscar, and he said, "Here, you can borrow this, but don't melt it down, you little fucker."
Well, he did, because he had to buy a couple of Patriot missiles because they're kind of running out. And I mean, that's another thing. We've got suddenly the media's all talking about a small handful of North Korean troops for which there's been no actual evidence, apart from Russians trolling, putting North Korean flags up when they capture buildings, which is just the wicked Russian sense of humor, which I'm coming to like more and more, because they just. I don't know. I think they have lessons in trolling in Russian schools.
Did you see the guys? Did you see the guys yesterday in Scotland, up at Trump's resort, that pulled out the big Trump 2024 flag and had it out on his resort? So yeah, they were trolling as well. But like, Swinney's such a turncoat, because one day he's saying Trump's a horrible man and all this, and the next day he's sucking right up his ass. I'm looking forward to working. Well, Swinney, you should be working with anyone.
That. I mean,
but this guy's a mayor.
Nonsense.
He doesn't have a remit for foreign policy. Scotland does not have a remit. Scotland shouldn't have fucking. I mean, it's like Chinese police stations. There shouldn't be Scottish, missions dotted around America and other countries for the SNP to go and have holidays at. Because that effectively seems to be what they're doing.
But so So if an English person gets into trouble in America, can they go to a Scottish?
Good God,
like,
no!
What are these high commissions? It's like, no, you can't come in here. You're not Scottish.
But they're not official.
What if you're like
they're not official, are they? If you get into bother in America, even as a Scot, you have to go to the British embassy, or you have to ask them to help. You can't ask the Scottish because all it is a fucking trade mission. You know, they're just trying to sell haggis and whiskey and tartan and freedom.
Oh, and don't forget those. Yeah, well, don't forget those little plots of land where you can buy yourself a lordship.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can be the laird.
One
you can be
of Scotland.
Yeah, you can be the laird of this tree. Laird of tree farm. Yeah. Fucking, it's like buying a star or a plot in the moon. What a nonsense.
I've got a plot on the moon.
Fucking hell, why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? What about, is it near the dead Russian?
I have no idea. I'd have to look it up.
Right, okay, troll room, next question. But anyway, keep going, Ed. Oh, Mount Shasta, isn't it? Oh no. Farm Girl Rebel. Where's Farm Girl Rebel from? Are you in America, Farm Girl Rebel?
Oh, she's one of my American Twitter followers.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice lady.
Mount Shasta,
horses and stuff. Actual farm girl.
Mount Shasta's got a bit of a reputation about it as a spiritual
I've heard
place.
lots of stuff about that places, but there's also things like Dark Pyramid in Alaska, which is interesting.
That's under
a section of Alaska
that's under
the
Mount,
airspace is completely closed.
That's under Mount. Oh God, what is it, Mount
Rainier?
No, that's the one that blew up, mate. Fuck me. I need to check it out.
But there's all kinds of crazy stuff because there's pyramids in China.
There's pyramids everywhere, aren't there?
Yeah. And then there was something I saw on Twitter earlier today. I can't remember which account it was, saying that they found I think they've found this stone sculpture in India that has symbols on it that are very similar to some of the symbols that have been found in Göbekli Tepe.
Right. Okay.
In Turkey, which is interesting. But I mean, there's motifs for that, and then there's our favorite giant rabbit hole of Alaska as well.
Yeah, forget it. I'll go and look for it later. Yeah, I can't. Oh no, that's right. It was Mount St Helens that blew up, but it's not Rainier that the Black Pyramid's under.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I just know that there's a select section of Alaska where the airspace is completely closed.
It's in the Alaska Triangle, isn't it? I know exactly where it is. In fact, I was watching something about it last night. Right, here's a question. Okay, here we go. Paul Armstrong says, are we humans really top of the food chain on Earth? You want to go first, Ed? Or shall I?
It depends on what human and where that human is. If you're a human living in the United Kingdom or in the United States, and you have a vehicle and roof over your head or firearms or whatever, then yeah, you're pretty much top of the food chain. But if you are a Kalahari Bush person or someone like that is much closer to nature, then possibly not. Well, maybe Kalahari Bushman's not the greatest example, but I don't know. But then if you look at somewhere like Kenya, you've got the Maasai, who essentially live out with lions and shit like that. Well, not so much anymore, but they used to. So,
well, if you think about it, right?
But then if you meet a saltwater crocodile, suddenly you're not top of the food chain anymore.
Exactly. I think it very much it very much depends on where you are. Look, this is pissing me off.
If
I can't
anything,
find
our
this fucking
technology,
mountain.
it's our technology which may put us at the top of the food chain. But if you
Yeah.
take that technology away, then suddenly you drop down the food chain pretty rapidly. But again, it depends on the environment, because if you have predators larger than you, if you're in the African bush, or if you're in the Southern Ocean, or I don't know, the Arctic with polar bears, then there are things out there that are bigger than you that could kill you and eat you. But if you have a gun, then suddenly you're top of the food chain. Unless you don't know how to use it and you shoot yourself, in which case you're bottom of the food chain.
and a winner of the Darwin Award.
Yeah, you definitely get the Darwin Award. Although if you're in the Arctic or Alaska or somewhere, and you end up shooting yourself in the face and you get eaten by a polar bear, then nobody will know that you actually won the Darwin Award.
Yeah.
Although, speaking of which, I do think health and safety is destroying the world. Because stupid people get protected from their mistakes.
I know.
And those stupid people then
they get to
go
breed.
and procreate and create more stupid little people.
Yep.
And you just end up with 2024 and what we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of these woke, entitled idiots whose parents would probably have off themselves in a freaking industrial accident if it wasn't for all the health and safety.
I submitted something for a Darwin Award once, right? And it was a guy who had stolen a motorcycle in Coinning. And what he did was he took it over the railway bridge to Irvine. But he got hit by a train. Okay. Now, apparently he had he'd checked the timetable out and there was no trains coming. But he got hit by a freight train. Right? So he died. And I've never seen I've never seen so much blood in an ambulance in my life. I mean, they've literally had to hose the thing out, right? Because he was still alive when you couldn't get to him very easily because there wasn't a road handy. So they sent an electric. What happened? See, those big freight trains with the diesel engines, the ones with the bonnet.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see anything that's any closer than something like 40 yards because of the bonnet. So at night, if you hit something, you think you know, and they hit things like cows and that all the time. So, well, not all the time, but you know, it's not a rare occurrence. So this guy thought he'd hit a cow, and I mean, you can't. It takes like a mile for these things to stop, so he just keeps going. But he radios it in, and they send down an electric train to check, and they find this guy on the motorbike, and they put the guy on the electric train and took him down to Irvine, where the ambulance picked him up, and the cops that were investigating it go, so he's dead, doctor, and the doctor goes, well, not quite. And they're like that. How can I? You know, there's bits missing, and when I say bits, I mean major bits. And the doctor goes, well, actually, if you just look in there, you can see that his heart is still actually beating. That's how bad it was. But so yeah, so I submitted this as a Darwin Award because I thought this is a shoe-in, and you know what they came back with? That's obviously a made-up story. And I mean, and you've got to submit who you are and where it happened and all this. You know, it's like you got to fill in a whole form, and I'd filled all this in, and this is the early days of the internet, so it takes ages. And I'd filled it in and submitted it, and they came back to me and goes, that's not a true story because freight trains are on timetables. And I'm like, no, they're fucking not. Freight trains
are so not. I mean, they operate on their own timetables, but they're not publicly available.
Have you fucking heard anything so stupid? Freight trains are on timetables. No, they're not.
Well, maybe they are in America.
I don't know. Can you look up a timetable in America in the station and go, oh, there's the There's the
They wouldn't put freight trains. The thing is that they wouldn't put freight trains on passenger timetables, and if you were going to check,
course they wouldn't.
But also, but I mean because Darwin Awards are Americans, obviously.
Yeah, isn't everything in real terms, isn't everything fucking boiled down to American idiots? And I'll let the people in the trial room off, because obviously you are more educated people in that you come to us. We are plant food, of course, Eddie. You're right. We've got a busy trial room tonight. That's the
cycle. That's the whole point. We come out of nature and we go back into nature. And it's a cycle. And what happens after we die is a whole nother question, whether you believe something does happen or something doesn't happen. Everything is cyclical.
So here, Gunky's in the chat room, and I think it was him. Who was it? Was it Gunky that sent the thing about the secret tunnels under LA, the secret star tunnels with the private Starbucks? So he says there are secret tunnels under LA that stars and celebrities can use to travel between locations without having to deal with the LA traffic. And they have Starbucks under there, right? They have Starbucks under there where they can get a coffee while they're driving to their next location in the tunnels underneath LA. But you don't need to pay for it. These are free Starbucks. And this was a podcast, and this guy said he worked in one of those free Starbucks, and he's now free to talk about it because his NDA has expired. Yeah, this is what we call a trust me bro, trust me bro, isn't it? And no evidence. So I'm just gonna laugh at that. I'm just gonna laugh at it because that's so fucking ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. There are tunnels under big cities, but they're not for public use, and they're certainly not for celebrity use.
Well, I mean, yeah, there'll be. Well, there's obviously the underground tunnels and sewer tunnels and all of the utilities and stuff like that. And there's below that there may well be military bases. I mean, some cities have like bomb shelters and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Amy says, the tunnels under. Of course they are. You've got tunnels under airports all over the world, because how do you think they send all the stuff about? All the luggage and stuff like that.
Yeah, but Amy might be talking. Is she talking about Denver?
Yeah, she is talking about Denver.
Denver, which is the airport that they reckon is has a whole underground thing going on, which is where, in the event of bad shit happening, all of the elite people and stuff are going to fly to.
I thought it was the Ozarks. I thought they were going to the Ozarks.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I was just recounting what I've heard about Denver International Airport, which it's a very odd place. I mean, it is. I've seen Y-Files about it where AJ debunks a lot of the supposed theories about it, but it's still an odd place, and it's just odd. There's things about it that just don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But then there's things about the rest of the world that make not a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, I mean,
in some ways things just start making less sense.
I mean, New York's riddled with tunnels. I mean, it's got steam tunnels all over it, and obviously maintenance tunnels. I mean, look, you've got subways, you've got abandoned subway tunnels all under London that were used in the 1800s. It
goes further back.
You've even got abandoned tunnels in Glasgow because we used to hold illegal raves in them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are all sorts of stories that there are tunnels that stretch from the UK right down to the Mediterranean. And I mean, if you look in Turkey, there's a place called Derinkuyu, which has this massive underground, not small either, and it's not the only one. That at some point there are a lot of people living underground, and the official, the mainstream archaeologists say that they built these underground hiding places to hide away from hordes of Mongols or religious people or whatever, like Ottomans or Arabs or Sorry, things like that.
Did you just turn into me there?
No. Someone just sent me a message, made me giggle. But
and then there's the giants of Gozo that live in the tunnels underneath Gozo, and steal children and things like that. Yeah, there's tunnels everywhere.
Malta's a fascinating place.
Oh, Malta is. I mean, have you been to Malta?
Yeah.
You should go. Have you dived in Malta? You should dive.
Yeah, no, I've dived in Gozo. I have done.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fascinating place. Graham Hancock. I don't know if you've seen his Ancient Apocalypse series.
I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen some of it.
I enjoyed it. I mean, the second one is good too, but he does a whole one of his episodes is about Malta.
Yeah, because that's got a lot of megalithic type stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's megalithic ruins in Malta that are similar to. Well, they're also there's a fascination with the sun, as with a lot of these places, but they've also got different temples that were built at different angles, which are basically tracking the sun as you go through procession. And the positions changed, and then they actually built another temple so that they could keep monitoring it. And so scattered around Malta, you have all these temples which are pointing in slightly different directions. And they worked out that each one was built when the sun was in a particular point, or was it the sun or Venus or something? Anyway, to do with astrological stuff. And they just don't fit with the mainstream explanation that we originated in Mesopotamia 6,000 years ago.
Yeah. Paul Armstrong says, I just think the alien abduction thing means we're not top of the food chain. Well, that's strange you should mention that because...
Oh, okay. Well, we weren't factoring in...
No, hold on. It's strange you should mention that because I don't know if you've just seen the Netflix series that started, or the first 3 episodes where the Manhattan abduction, and I have done some research into that, and it's an incredible story, right? And I use that term not lightly. Incredible. So when you dig into these alien abduction things, Paul, not many of them stand up. They don't stand up to, what would you call it, examination or investigation. Their evidence doesn't stand up, and they're pretty damn weak. So I'm going to do a video on the Manhattan one, and probably more because I don't think it's quite as clear cut as anyone thinks. And I think the whole premise
stories.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think abduction stories, they're always a tricky one, and there are. There's, I mean, of all of the different ones that I've heard, there's only 1 or 2 where you're left thinking, "No, this is totally believable. Something happened to those 2," and it's. I mean, there was two guys in America. I can't remember the names. It's a really famous abduction case.
Is this a fisherman? The 19-year-old and the 47-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
And that because the police put them in a room thinking that they were gonna.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, and they just kept the whole thing, and they genuinely came across like some weird shit happened, and it's so it's a. I mean, if we're factoring aliens in, then no, we're definitely not top of the food chain.
Yeah, but
especially not if they're lizards.
If you're factoring aliens in, you've got to have evidence to support that, and that's why I'm quite enjoying this cult of UFO thing, because I've it's kind of gone back to my roots. I've created case files for every video in effect. I mean, I've been using Notebook LM, so I've got case files for every video, and then I've got everything scripted before it goes out. So I've been writing. I was writing the script for the Manhattan one this morning, and I've written a script for the aerial school one as well. So There's a couple going to be coming out quite soon, I hope. But yeah, it's a lot of the evidence is very, very sketchy and very, very suspect, and more so than the evidence are the people behind it. You know, that's where I've been trying to go as a different tack. I'm looking at the people behind these stories more than the actual story, because everything that ultimately boils down to, do you believe what the people that tell you this are saying? And that's where a lot of these things stand and fall, I think. That's just my view. But, I mean, it'll piss people off, because it's obviously pissed off Britmate, because I called out I don't know why he was so, I don't know, this guy, that Dr. John Mack guy, the one that investigated the Ariel school thing about 3 months after it happened. So any evidence that he's going to get from that is going to be stale. You know, it's been corrupted so many times. Because you know what kids are like. They're going to talk to each other. So even if you wanted evidence from those kids, you had to get it there and then, within the first 2 days. And the whole way they went about it was completely wrong from an evidential point of view of gathering evidence. You can't gather evidence the way they did it. But that's what they did, and that's the things I'll be drawing out and showing people. And I'm not necessarily going out to debunk these things, but what I'm saying is, if you're going to believe something, and it's something like that, you need extraordinary evidence to make you believe it. And in a lot of cases, it's not there. In some cases, though, maybe it is, you know?
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, there's an awful lot of UFO stories out there, and I'd say probably the vast majority of them are tricks of the light, or hoaxes, or explainable through some other means than
weather balloons, helium balloons, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, given how many there are, even 5% of the ones of the stories that I've heard, if 5% of them are actually real, they're certainly unexplained, and there's certainly some of the video footage of the USOs, the unidentified submersible objects, where they can skit in and out of the water, and it's military footage. And I mean, we've got gun camera footage from Navy pilots and sightings from airline pilots and people who are trained observers who don't.
Yeah,
they're not kind of, I don't know, half drunk passenger on a plane to Singapore sees a light in the sky and takes a picture of it, and suddenly we've got another UFO. But it's, I always think extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and it has to fit together. The thing with a lot of these stories is once you actually start picking at the seams and you start pulling the threads out, the whole thing sometimes it just completely collapses. And and then you have people like Lou Elizondo, who is just so fucking dodgy. It's just not funny anymore.
He's like the fucking penguin brought to life, isn't he? I don't like the guy, but I'm trying not let that colour my judgment. Yeah, and that other guy, David Grush, there's something fucking weird about him. He's a real weirdo as well. Right, hold on. There's a few questions for us. George Knapp's new doc. I like George Knapp. I think George Knapp, and it won't be any surprise to you, I think, because George Knapp, I think, is a good guy and a genuine guy, and I like George Knapp, and he does approach things with a level of investigatory skill that isn't totally clouded by the fact that he wants to believe, right? Because the problem with the UFO community is they all want to believe. That's the problem. I mean, I want to believe, but for me to believe, I've got to see it. And that's why I say, if you really want me to believe, fucking park one on the White House lawn. You do that, then I'll definitely believe, you know. But until that happens, I'm like, you know, no. But apart from that, more questions. Has anyone here seen a UFO? Says Militant. Have you seen a UFO?
No.
No, I'm not 100% sure. There was something once that was a bit strange when I was out on night shift in Glasgow, but I think it was a lenticular cloud, right? But they themselves are very fucking rare. You know, have you ever seen a lenticular cloud? So I think it might have been that.
Only in TV, only in pictures.
Yeah, so I think it might have been a lenticular cloud.
But they also form it, they only form in very specific. Yeah, but I mean, they lenticular clouds require very specific atmospheric conditions and geography in order to form, because you have to get air rushing up, and it's got to be
yeah.
Usually mountains, volcanoes, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it was weird though. It was definitely weird. CPR Carl says he has an alien UFO story for us. Images too. Hey, send it in. Send it in to.
Well, come on the show and tell us about it.
Aye, or come on the show and tell us about it. Yeah, absolutely. That's the other thing that pisses me off as well. See the amount of people that you extend an offer for them to come on the show, and then when they find out that they're going to have to show their face, and this isn't a dig at you in the old days, right? Because those were different times. But see the amount of people that won't show their face, and the amount of people that don't want to be identified. And that extends into this whole UFO stuff as well. Because see those 23 fucking witnesses for the Manhattan thing, not one of them has been verified or identified. Not one. So there's 23 witnesses that are basically, trust me, bro. You know, that's bullshit. Anyway, next. So Paul says only one abduction tale needs to be true for the whole phenomenon to be true. Well,
I agree with that.
Yes, but then what is the phenomenon?
No, I do.
Yeah, but what is the phenomenon? It doesn't necessarily mean it's aliens. That's the point. Doesn't mean it's aliens.
Yeah, but it's weird shit.
Yeah, it's weird shit.
Which means that
but it doesn't mean it's aliens.
It's still a win if you can still prove it, and we can still say, look, still don't know what the fuck it is, but it's not, doesn't make sense, and it's weird, and we still win.
Yeah, we'll see. Finding a true one though is going to be your task, because most of it is anecdotal evidence. That's all it is. Right, Mark Andrew Chapman says, was the Manhattan abduction the one that was witnessed by the Secretary General of the UN, the security detail? Allegedly witnessed by the Secretary General of the UN, who denied it and has never admitted it. And the security.
Apparently, the UN actually have protocols for dealing with.
Oh yeah, well
extraterrestrial.
They do, but that doesn't mean that they'll ever be implemented. A security detail who were identified as Richard and Dan have never been verified and never been verified to even exist. Never mind be identified as involved in this. Next, do you believe Admiral Byrd? Says Amy. Do we believe in Admiral Byrd?
Well, we did a show. I mean, we covered Admiral Byrd in the Antarctic episode.
Something weird going on with the plane.
I'm not. Yeah. I mean, I mean, the whole Operation High Jump as well was very weird. I mean, the war's just finished, and suddenly you create this massive freaking task force and send it to Antarctica. Yeah. So whether it was like Nazis or aliens or some sort of, they found something from Hollow Earth. I mean, that's Admiral Byrd's. He supposedly had a Hollow Earth encounter at the North Pole as well as the South Pole.
Yeah.
So there is something about his story that is actually really believable. And he was certainly a highly decorated military officer. I mean, he's not the sort of person that you would think of as being a conspiracy kook or anything like that. And we know for a fact that Antarctica is one giant freaking continent-sized rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And that it's there's something different going on there.
I think what I would say, Amy, is that Admiral Byrd, on the face of it, seems to be what I would term a credible witness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would tend to believe that what he tells us is true in as far as he believes what he's saying is true. Now, that might sound a bit circuitous, but people can get confused and their memories do play tricks on them, and people do hallucinate. And that's a given. People hallucinate, and they hallucinate all the time. I myself have hallucinated quite wildly at times, right, without the use of any drugs. Just sleep deprivation and dark and driving up a motorway at night, right, and could swear I could see dragons flying above me and things like that. And I wasn't drunk, but I'd been on a motorbike for 3 days, coming back from...
You might as well be bloody drunk.
Coming back from Germany. And, it was wild. It was absolutely wild. And I'm thinking, wow, that can't be real. And then you're thinking, maybe I'm freaking sleeping. But I'm sitting on a motorbike doing 70 miles an hour, And no, I didn't. I had no drugs. I can assure you, I've never taken drugs. Well, I had never taken drugs at that point in my life. What are you laughing at?
I like the qualified response.
Well, I'm being honest. I'm being honest to people. Right. Can I post a link to an image, please? CPR car says. You can if you want. Oh no, you can't post links. They won't come through. Send it to me on Twitter. Go on Twitter and send stuff to follow me on Accolator. I'll put my thing in here. And you can, if you follow me, I'll follow you back, and you can send me stuff through Twitter messaging. Did that come through? Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And we can make it part of the next show or whatever. So yeah, I would say I believe Admiral Byrd believes what he saw. Yeah. And the problem is we don't have an awful lot of corroborating evidence to go with it, other than the fact that the plane shouldn't have been able to have been away for so long, should it, Ed? Because it didn't have a big enough fuel tank for that kind of flight. And that's not a question of somebody miscounted the amount of fuel they put in it. Apparently the plane didn't have a big enough fuel tank. So either what happened, or he landed somewhere and then took off again, which in Antarctica, you're going to think, that's pretty wild, So yeah, that's one that it needs investigation. Sorry?
Yeah. I mean, the thing with high jump, it's also because Antarctica is so far away. So, and high jump happened at the end of World War II. And at the end of World War II, Antarctica was even further away than it is now in terms of the telecommunications and stuff. But it was still for the US military to send a big task force like that to Antarctica in the first place. That's weird. For Byrd's plane to have been gone for as long as it had been, given the amount of fuel it was able to carry, also weird. Yeah. Byrd's story, also weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where
definitely.
The high jump suddenly packed up and left Antarctica really quickly, having taken a certain amount of damage, because there were certain things that they took to Antarctica that didn't end up being taken back. And then just the general kind of secrecy that surrounds Antarctica, and the fact that it's so, I mean, obviously it's off limits because it's inhospitable and you can't really survive there very easily. But one of the big ones for me was why all these world leaders like the Pope and Klaus Schwab and stuff trooped off at the end of 2019.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there, Ed, but I don't think it's off limits because it's not survivable. I think it's off limits because there's something. Why are they keeping people away from it? Because nobody stops you going to Greenland or Alaska, and they're pretty unsurvivable places unless you're properly equipped, The Northwestern
absolutely.
Territories of Canada. You know, I mean, you get the Canny Valley. You go in there in the winter, you're not coming back out, or you're going to lose your head. Maybe it's the head.
I mean, there are places. There must
maybe then
be
the Canny
places
Valley
in-
time swapped with Edinburgh briefly.
But then why would the Pope need to go to?
Exactly.
Why would the Pope
What's
need to go
going
to
on?
Antarctica?
Antarctica is a complete and
The
utter
Pope went to
mystery.
Antarctica in 2019.
Yeah,
I mean,
Buzz
it's like,
Aldrin.
is he going to try and convert penguins or something?
Buzz Aldrin, the Russian guy
Klaus
as well.
Schwab from when?
The Russian guy as well.
Mm.
The leader of the Russian Orthodox
Which
Church.
Russian guy?
The leader of the Russian Orthodox Church. He went to Antarctica as well.
Patriarch Kirill, I think it's called.
Yeah, so that's wild.
So why? And that to me, it's just because there was also no announcements. You would think that if they'd found something that they were going to announce, like, I don't know, some shipwreck from 2,000 years ago, or something that's perfectly preserved in the Antarctic ice, that they would actually tell the world about it.
Yeah.
But it's also what they're doing with Göbekli Tepe, where they're not. I mean, you would
buried
think this
it.
is one of the most it's one of the most exciting archaeological discoveries that potentially has clues about the origins of humanity, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah,
we'll leave it for 150 years.
We'll rebury it and leave it for our future generations to fuck you off. That's nonsense. That's just nonsense. That's the kind of thing that fuels conspiracies. It really does, doesn't it? Yeah. Right. Anyway, let's get back into the. Where are we? Milton Mushroom says he's seen a UFO in daylight. Reported its craft from Marham. I think is that RAF Marham? An isosceles triangle. Interesting. Mercury silver in colour. Gunky Fadget says he knows some people who were involved in making crop circles in the 90s. Yeah, I'm pretty sure some people have been making crop circles, but crop circles is a whole subject that we need a night on that one.
The crop circles are another one of those. It's another one of those ones where 95% of them probably have a conventional explanation, but there are some of them where the wheat is bent in a way that just could not. That there's no way that a hoaxer.
It's not broken. It's as if it's been mildly heat treated and casually bent over. Right. Anyway, I'll stop doing that. That looks quite rude. What was I going to say? Nick Teredas says best alien abduction, Book of Enoch. Right. Okay. I don't think I've read that. Gunky says, I've always wondered why the aliens would return an abductee. Good question, Gunky. Good question. Good wondering. I like that. Mark Andrew Chapman says he's read Bud Hopkins' book, Food for Thought. Interesting. I'll be doing a video on Bud Hopkins, as well as Dr. John E. Mack. CPR Carl says he'd like to send us both a copy of his book. Well, that would be very nice. Hit me up on Twitter, mate, and we'll get you sorted out. Yeah.
Thank you.
We would indeed. Amy says Hollow Earth. Yeah, Hollow Earth is we've been there with the Antarctic thing. We'll probably go back to that. I think
Hollow Earth is a fascinating one. The only
Go on. Well, Beats and Tape says I think you really.
Hollow Earth is one that.
Oh right, sorry. Go on.
No, it's fine. I just think Hollow Earth is more convincing than Flat Earth. Or I could be more convinced by Hollow Earth than Flat Earth.
Definitely, I would say. Definitely, yeah. I agree with you on that one. Beats and Tape says he thinks I really did see dragons. It's a possibility. All I can do is give you the Trust Me Bro evidence. The notorious evidence locker Christmas party, John. Well, there could be that. No, we never did that. Mark Andrew Chapman says there's a guy who's a serving police inspector who's collating and publishing UFO reports specifically from police officers serving and retired. He's published 2 books so far. I don't know about him.
That's interesting.
Find out
No,
who he
I've
is,
never
Mark,
heard of that
and
before.
fire his name through. Nick Doritos has retracted his message. It must have been detrimental. Yeah, he said the Patriarch of Moscow went. Yeah, that's right. Would we do a rabbit hole and time slips? Absolutely. I would do a rabbit hole and time slips.
We could.
In fact, we might have already done
we
it.
could do a rabbit hole on.
Do you see what I did there?
The last thing I want is a time machine.
Yeah.
You'd honestly, if you actually had a time machine, you'd end up causing more problems.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that short film on YouTube? It's called The 1 Minute Time Machine.
No.
It's worth watching. It lasts about 5 minutes, but it's a good. It's well done. It's well thought out, and it's quite witty.
Okay.
Because the guy uses his 1 minute. I'll not spoil it, but the guy using his 1 minute time machine to try and pick up this woman who turns out to be like an astrophysicist and knows all about time machines. Right, and then she drops a bombshell on him, and the whole thing. It is quite funny, but it's quite good. Right, what's a good one? Buzz Aldrin. That's a good one. Blah, blah, blah. Not so, chaps. There are very many excavations of a lot of very similar sites in the region. Some just as impressive of a Göbekli, but they did bury Göbekli Tepe, or parts of it. They did rebury it.
But there's Karahan Tepe as well. And it's the same because they're in the same sort of area as Derinkuyu in Turkey. Cappadocia region in Turkey. And there's more than one of these giant underground cities, and there's more than one of these Göbekli Tepe type buried monument megalithic type places. And they were deliberately buried. So someone built it and then buried it, which in itself is just super weird. But just the lack of curiosity of archaeologists, and when you look at people like Flint Dibble, who's one of the gatekeepers of archaeology, and they're so close-minded and so narrow-minded and so arrogant and so aggravating that they just.
Do you not think that's a product of academia these days, though?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Academia needs to get in the bin. Literally, no, seriously. I mean, if you look at what we're getting out of academia, I mean, yeah, okay, there are scientists out there doing good stuff, but there's a whole bunch of scientists producing a whole load of bullshit, and not particularly archaeology. Okay, not all scientists, but the archaeology needs to get in the bin. Seriously, they need to just get rid of it and start again, do something else, come up with another way of studying the past. And because they're gatekeepers, they have a narrative, and anything that comes along to challenge the narrative that they can't explain, they'll either, if they can't ignore it, then they poo-poo it, and if they can't poo-poo it, then they basically just get all shirty about it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think physics needs to be started again as well, because at the moment you've got Nobel laureates fighting against each other. You know, I mean, physics is a complete and utter freaking mess.
Again, it's because you have too many of these academics that they're trying to uphold their existing sacred cows, and are not willing to listen to any new theories or evidence or anything like that if it doesn't fit within their whatever it is that they're being paid to be interested in.
See all this research. Sorry, carry on.
No, go on. I was just going to say that's the main problem with academia is money.
Yeah, and where the funding comes from. That's true. One of the things about this whole research into UFOs and stuff that I've been doing, it's been really, really interesting because I've gone a lot deeper than I probably would for a rabbit hole, you know, because I'm building a whole channel on it, in effect. But I've really come to some pretty disturbing conclusions that I'm not ready to disclose yet. But really disturbing because, like Sherlock says, you know, once you've eliminated the improbable, the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, has to be
Must be the
considered.
truth.
Yeah, well, it has to be considered, certainly. Policing the Haunted Skies, Volume 1 and 2. Okay. Yeah, that might be quite interesting, Mark. Certainly sounds
Policing
good.
the Haunted Skies.
Yeah.
I've got so many books on my reading list, it's ridiculous. Crazy.
Oh, finding the time to read books is a nightmare.
Isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I found it.
Cool.
Holy shit. Paperback, £42.50.
Whoa.
No Kindle version.
Whoa. Maybe I'll send one for review if we speak to them nicely. From one ex-cop to another. Have we heard of the Children of Woolpit? Are those the kids that were green? No? Do you remember the green kids that came out? Oh yeah, there was two kids come out of forest in America somewhere and they were green. Literally green. Yeah, I've heard of most things.
Out of the X-Files.
Well, it's allegedly a true story, so yeah, I've heard. Obviously, I have then, militant if it is them. I've been around a long time. I've heard of most stuff.
So basically what you're saying is you're an old fart.
Yeah, CPR Carl says his book is easy. It's got pictures. Excellent.
Well,
yeah, the
you,
Woolpit. We'll maybe do the Woolpit one thing one night. That's quite a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of evidence around it, but very interesting. Very interesting.
It's a little bit sketchy as to whether I'm going to be here next week because of me renovation. I'm not sure what state the flat's going to be in, but I will try.
Okay. Oh, right. Any other questions, people? Any questions for us?
It's like
God, we've gone an hour and a half.
I know. Time flies. I didn't know. I looked at it and it was like, holy shit, it's 10:20.
That's a good question for the troll room. But is time flying for you guys? Because that's what I said to Ed tonight. I said, is that really nearly a week since we last spoke? Because it just seems to have gone like that.
But I'm also interested in whether younger people feel, because when I was younger, time seemed to move much more slowly.
Yep.
And so I can't work out whether it's me getting older or somehow time has speeded up, because it feels like time has speeded up because you just literally, we do one show and then suddenly we got another show to do. And it feels like that with everything. It's like that with my Kung Fu class on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's like they seem to come around a lot faster, but I don't know if that's just my perception or if that's something that everybody's noticing.
I don't know. I mean, remember when you were a kid and you had summer holidays, and the summer holidays used to last forever.
Mm.
And yeah,
well, I remember when we lived in Zambia, we'd drive down to Siavonga, which is Lake Kariba, and the drive from Lusaka is a bit over 2 hours. And when I was a kid, those 2 hours, it literally felt like a week.
Yeah.
And now 2 hours is just, I mean, I get up to my brother's in about 2 hours, and it doesn't seem like any time at all. So is it because we're getting old, or is it because I don't know? Is the world speeded up? Is it the geomagnetic excursion somehow? I don't know.
Well, we do have I think everyone's got little bits of magnetite in their head somewhere, you know.
Well, we're electromagnetic creatures.
Yeah, I know, but I know pigeons have got a lot of magnetite, but I think every living creature has some to some extent. So there will be things that do affect you, especially around the magnetic field. Anyway,
How would that?
Right, sorry.
No, I was going to say, how would that impact our perception of time, though?
Because magnetic fields can affect. They can affect your brain, and if there's something to work on, you know how you can stick a magnet on your head and give yourself a religious experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if it's something like that. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm spitballing, but
Well, no, I mean that's part of the fun of the show.
Yeah. Gunky says, "What are our favourite rabbit holes?" It's hard to say, isn't it? What's your? Have you got a favourite subject on rabbit holes, or
9/11 and JFK? But I'd be hard pressed to choose. But then there's UFOs as well. It is really difficult to choose. I mean, my first ever rabbit hole was probably JFK.
Mm-hmm.
My second ever rabbit hole was probably UFOs, watching the X-Files, and then along came 9/11. The one that I'll always watch videos and look at stuff about is generally the JFK assassination, because to me that's the mother lode. But then there's newer ones like the moon landings, which I never thought was a rabbit hole, and now I'm completely convinced it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But that's also what I like about doing the show. I mean, particularly going back to that moon landing episode that we did.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that completely changed my own personal opinion of it. But they all stem from, well, the original conspiracy theory, which is the JFK assassination conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I like I continually get drawn to Antarctica. Continually. There's just something about Antarctica that's so mysterious. I like that kind of thing. I used to be quite into ghosts and stuff like that, but I'm not really into ghosts at all now. I'm kind of disappointed in the supernatural. It's never come through for me,
I mean, you've never seen a ghost?
Yeah. Well, no, I think I have seen a ghost. I've seen something that was really like a ghost. It was really, really bizarre. So
right, but is this in the same context as you seeing dragons?
No. This was, although it was the night shift, I was at work. I was driving a police car. I was driving down Kilwinning Road in Irvine, and I was passing the hospital. And as we passed the mortuary, right, or as we were getting just about to pass the mortuary, which backs onto the road, right, this white thing came shooting across the road in front of us, right? And it was just on the edge of the headlights. So you couldn't quite see what it was, but it travelled at speed and it was way bigger than a dog, right? And it looked more upright than on all fours. And it shot across the road in front of us, disappeared into the woods beside these new houses that had been built there. And when I say woods, I mean like a strip of 3 or 4 trees. So thinking it might be a bad person that's been up to no good, burrows into the houses and gets the torches out and searches that strip of woodland. And when I say woodland, I'm being generous, it's a bit it's just like a barrier between the road and the houses. And couldn't find anything, just couldn't find anything. No trace of anything, no footprints, nothing. It's just fucking weird. But the speed that it crossed the road at and from the mortuary was weird. So that was I don't know if it was a ghost or not. But a good story.
Well, that would have freaked me out.
Yeah, it was.
That's a very good story.
Yeah. What's his name? Julie says that Carol feels time is flying and Carol's only 13. That's quite interesting.
Okay, so it is impacting youngsters as well. Fascinating.
Gunky's being disingenuous. he didn't like my story.
Oh, dear.
Did anyone see the picture I posted today of for my, nonsense about Shadow?
No.
The Justin Trudeau visiting Moonbase? No?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did see that
Does
one.
that guy is he not a dead ringer for Justin Trudeau?
He does look like a younger, much more gay version of Justin Trudeau.
Well, much more gay, I think. That would be difficult to quantify, but yeah, it does look a bit younger, but yeah. But that picture was taken in the 70s, early 70s. So that's not Justin Trudeau.
Well, his mother was known to be a bit... What's the right word for it?
Promiscuous?
That's a
friendly.
So, I mean, God knows how many brothers and sisters Justin's got out there.
It's a possibility, yeah. Oh.
I think we're done, aren't we? I think.
Yeah, I think
I think. Well, I'll be more polite and say I think we've reached the natural conclusion.
Yeah, okay. In other words, people, that's had enough.
No, I didn't mean I've
no,
had enough.
I know that.
We seem to be running out of things to say.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a couple of things. Nick just says Big Owl.
Big Owl?
It's a possibility because it was on the edge of the lights, but it was more white than anything, so you need to be, what are white? Barn owls? Barn owls white? No, they're brown, aren't they? Do we have white owls in this country?
I don't know. I mean, some sort of bird would make sense. That would explain why you didn't see anything on the ground.
You don't other than owls, you don't get a lot of birds flying about at night.
No, I mean, it wouldn't be a bat because mostly they're black.
Unless it was fucking called Dracula. It was big. It wasn't small. But yeah.
Hilarious.
I know. Paul Armstrong says Castro's son for sure. I think you could be right there, mate. I think you could be right.
If you put two pictures up together, three pictures. You put Justin and you put Pierre Trudeau, supposedly his father.
Yeah.
And you put Castro, and you line the three of them up.
Yeah.
You'll see very quickly who looks like who.
Well, it's exactly the same with Harry and Hewitt.
Yeah, yeah, not much less.
Yeah.
Oh. Harry doesn't look like any of the previous royals.
None of them at all. Right. Yeah. So Gunky says he wonders most about whether Spectre is real, and he knows it's not called Spectre. What's he talking about?
Spectre's from James Bond.
Yeah, I know Spectre's from James Bond, but why does he say he knows it's not called Spectre? Is he trying to allude to something else? I don't know. Oh, it's too late for too late. No, no, Yazzie. We are not going there. That's it. It's time to go. Gunky says Club of Rome, etc. With yeah.
Maybe. I don't think it's that organized. I don't
think it's as organized as people think it is. That's my view, right? That's my view.
And I think there are competing factions. I don't think they're all unified either.
Yeah, they're not.
But it's the same that we saw with the Titanic, where you have Astor and Guggenheim and the other one that went down with the ship and handily got out of the way of the Federal Reserve, but they weren't standing in the way of the Federal Reserve because they wanted to help people. They were standing in the way of it because it was getting in the way of their, or it would have gotten in the way of their investments and made them poorer.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. So I'd like to thank you, Ed, for coming along tonight and making
it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Making it actually quite an interesting show, I thought.
Yeah, it's been fun. I enjoyed it. Me too.
And thank you, everyone in the chat room, for coming in and hanging around.
Yeah, and being interactive too. It's been good.
Yeah, it's been
Answering
good.
questions
It
and
has
stuff.
been good. Yazzie says she's only teasing. Yeah, you better be. So yeah, but I might be back tomorrow night. We'll see what happens. And we might be back next Thursday. But other stuff will be going on. Other stuff will be.
I'll
going
let you
on.
know in good time too.
Yeah, and there'll be if he doesn't turn up, then there'll be something anyway. And I'll probably be putting out a couple of Cult of UFO stuff as well. So I might even just chat about them, something like that. So we'll see. We'll certainly have stuff to do and stuff to regale you with. There we go. Right. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing that stuff. Who was it? CPR? Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I'll get onto Twitter and have a look at that CPR. Cheers, mate. And thank you, everyone else. Thank you very much. And it's good night from me. Say good night, Ed.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night, Ed.